The forest is supposed to be safe. It's where we pitch tents, roast marshmallows, and tell scary stories under the stars. But sometimes the stories don't stay at the fire. Sometimes they get up and they walk. A tent ripped open like paper, footsteps circling when everyone's asleep, lights weaving between the trees, and then gone. They say the forest keeps its secrets. But what if those secrets have claws? Welcome to the Whisper Files. Tonight, we're not just talking about camping trips gone wrong. We're stepping into the woods themselves to meet the cryptids of the forest. Because if you ever felt eyes on you out there in the dark, it wasn't just your imagination. The trees are never empty. Let's get started. National forests feel safe on a map, but maps forget old stories. Stories that say the forest is not just a place, but a presence. Some numbers we don't talk about enough. People who go into the trees and don't come back out. We'll leave the statistics to other shows. But patterns? Patterns we can trace with a red thread across a black wall. Oh yes. 3 names echo in between the pines. 3 silhouettes caught not in the firelight, but just beyond it. Bigfoot, Wendigo, and the skunk ape. And haunting the edges, shadows with borrowed names. Dogman, the Ozark Howler, and the phantom lights that float like bait above the hollows. Put on your boots, keep your breath quiet, and if you hear a branch snap where no branch should snap, don't run. They like it when you run. You see, in the forest, you learn to listen. Not with just your ears, but with your skin, your spine, with that old compass buried under your ribs, the one that spins when something is watching you. We walk into the woods for peace and emerge with questions. Prints where no boot walked, voices where no mouth should be, campfires that go cold, and maps that suddenly don't match the land. Tonight, we lace our boots tight and step past the trailhead. This is the Whisper Files. Episode 3, Cryptids of the Forest. Say its name, and 1,000 jokes arrive before the echo dies. But the laughter has a way of thinning out when you're alone on a logging road after midnight. They've called him Sasquatch, Wild Man, the Old Man of the Mountain, the Watcher, and if you ask the First Nations that lived with these trees longer than our asphalt has, the stories change tone. Less punchline and more warning. The modern legend drops a reel of film right at our boots. The 1960s clip that refuses to die. A sideways look from a giant figure. The easy swing of arms, and then gone between trunks like smoke finding a draft. We learned to argue about get analysis and costume seams. We learned to freeze frames, enhance pixels, measure the flex of muscle under the hair. We learned to be clever. But the campsites and along the fire roads, other lessons stayed raw. A smell, like a wet dog and rotting leaves. A silence so heavy even insects pull their voices back. Rocks tossed from the dark, never quite at you, just near you, like punctuation in a language you don't speak. Hunters mention trees knuckled into the ground, structures like warning signs. Hikers mention whistles that aren't whistles, wood knocks that answer knocks, as if the forest is a drum and something old knows the stanzas by heart. Now, I'm no biologist, excuse me, but if a relic hominid wanted to survive near us, close enough to raid a berry patch, far enough to vanish before the ranger's second cup of coffee, what would it do? It would learn the edges, the utility corridors, the abandoned skid trails, the places we forget we built. That's the natural story. But the Whisper Files don't live on nature alone. Which means, what if the edge isn't geographic? What if it's dimensional? A being that steps in when the forest is quiet and steps out when we look too long? Or are we watching a species? Or an operating procedure? A traveler moving along fault lines in reality where forests are thick and human attention is thin? We're not here to convince. We're here to notice. And the notices stack high. Prints, screams, eye shine that isn't coyote yellow or bear amber, but a flat, unsettling ember red. If you go hunting for Bigfoot, don't just pack a camera. Pack humility. Pack the willingness to be told no by the woods. We see you. That's enough. Next, we're going to jump into the Wendigo, the hunger that walks. There are creatures born of meat and bone, and others born of need. From the Allegheny nations along the northern forests comes a name that empties the mouth: Wendigo. A warning, a story, a spirit. The tale is not a carnival mask. It's a moral with teeth. It says, when the snow is deep and the cupboards are hollow, beware the hunger that chooses you. In some tellings, a person breaks a vow and breaks bread with something that isn't bread, and becomes hunger wearing a face. In others, the Wendigo is a cold that hunts, not a metaphor dressed as a monster, a presence with a footprint and a voice like splintered ice. Elders will tell you the story is a guardrail. It keeps people tied to community when winter wants to separate them. But then you meet a trapper who tells you about the tracks that didn't fill with snow, even hours after a storm. Or a ranger who swears he found a deer carcass hung 10 feet up with the spine peeled like a zipper. And you wonder, where does the lesson end and the footsteps begin? What if hunger isn't just an appetite, but a frequency? Something that burns a channel through a person, through a community, through a forest. And what walks in that channel wears us like camouflage. People carry stories for a reason. Not to scare the children, to remember the shape of the invisible. Step wrong in the wrong winter, and the forest watches you count your ribs. Do not whistle after dark. Do not say its name, where the trees can answer. Respect the people whose story this is. Not every shadow belongs on camera. Some things you honor by not trying to own them. Which brings us to Florida and the legendary skunk ape. The forest is not just pine and cedar. It is wet. It is muck. It is roots drinking from black water. Welcome to Florida's skunk ape. The swamp cousin your uncle insisted he saw from a bass boat in 1998. You know the checklist. Smell that bruises your sinuses. Eye shine low and red over sawgrass line. Footprints that don't quite match a man's but aren't bare either. Some say escaped primates turned feral. Some say tall tales turned feraler. But swamps are storage units for secrets. Gators move evidence. Water rewrites crime scenes every hour on the hour. And if you were a relic species with a shyness problem, this is where you'd set up your P.O. box. Let's try a thought experiment. You're a clever mammal with hands. You navigate by creek and cypress. You know how to keep downwind of boats, and you can smell propane lanterns 2 miles out. Humans come with bait, snacks, and cameras. You want the snacks, you don't want the cameras. So you learned our blind spots, our boat motors, our path habits, the fact that we always look at eye level. Is that biology? Absolutely. Is that a strategy? Also, absolutely. And if the Everglades learn to keep visitors from another world or just the next county over, wouldn't the swamp itself become a co-conspirator? A defense grid of fog and mosquitoes. Either way, leave the swamp as you found it. The skunk ape won't write you a thank you note, but the cypress might. Moving right along into the Dogman. In the Midwest and into the pines of the Great Lakes, people tell a story about a thing that moves like a wolf until it stands like a man. They call it Dogman. Sometimes it's a warning to stay out of the fields after midnight. Sometimes it's a police report half whispered into a ham radio. Where wolves end and stories begin, the human brain is busy. But when farmers start changing their routes and kids stop cutting across the woodlots they've used for years, we should start to pay attention. And how about the Ozark Howler? Head down into the ridges and the hollers, and someone will swear on their last biscuit in the pan that the Ozark Howler calls from the saddle of the night. Cat, bear, old story with bad teeth? Sure. But once in a while, a cavalry of deer breaks and runs, like something tall just stepped out from the tree line and decided now was a good time to practice fear. What about the phantom lights? Orbs that float between trees like lanterns cut loose. Swamp gas is a tidy answer. So is piezoelectric rock stress, and ionized air. Keep those on your clipboard because you'll need them. But a hunter in the Appalachian dark tells us the light paced him for 1.5 miles, and every time he took out his phone, it slid behind a trunk. There's a story that says some lights aren't lights at all but eyes. Okay, take a deep breath. Let's connect strands without strangling the truth. Trails with repeated oddities, rock stacks where no trail workers go, dead zones of sound, clusters of missing person reports that police chalk up to accidents until you flip the map and notice they make a shape. Park incident logs that are thin where they shouldn't be, rangers who tell you off camera that something throws rocks by the river every autumn, and they'd rather not write that down again. The forest is an interface, not just trees, not just animals, a system of edges and exchanges, where we are the invasive species, and the original code is still running underneath. Theories? Then pick your flavor. What about undiscovered primates, clustered along food-rich corridors and staying ahead of us like chess players? Human folklore, acting like a bootloader, teaching communities how to survive by giving danger a name. Thin places in the world, natural areas running a kind of old software where things with long stride lengths and good night vision cross over on schedules we don't understand. A blend, because the world isn't obligated to choose one explanation just because our documentaries prefer tidy endings. Where do where do the disappearances sit in all of this? Some are sad, human, and explainable. The woods are beautiful and indifferent. Others carry fingerprints without fingers. A campsite too neat. A shoelace placed where eyes will find it. Pointing the wrong way. Maybe the forest has custodians. Some native, some passing through. Maybe the price of wandering is occasionally being counted by something we didn't invite. So, if you're going out there alone or with friends, do 3 things for me and for the trees. Tell someone where you're going and when you'll be back. The forest loves secrets. Don't give it yours. 2. Carry a real light and a backup. Not just for seeing, but for being seen. Many shadows are just shadows until you give them a line to respect. 3. Don't follow lights off trail. If something wants you to chase it, make it earn your curiosity in the daylight. And if you smell wet dog and rotten leaves, and the woods go quiet, and a rock lands near your boot, say hello. Say you're leaving, and then leave. In closing, not every file can be closed. Some live in a folder labeled ongoing. That's the forest for you. A case that keeps taking notes on us as much as we take notes on it. Bigfoot, Wendigo, Skunk, Dogman, the Howler, the lights. They could be bones and blood. They could be stories with feet. They could be something that steps in from the corner of a wider room and steps back out when we name it. I'll give you one last thread to tie around your wrist when you go walking. If you feel watched, it's because you are. See you on the trail. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. This is No, It's You, Not Me, where we don't dodge the nonsense, we destroy it. New myths, new truths every week. Make sure you subscribe, smash that like button, and stick around, because the truth isn't waiting, and neither are we.